So this was our second lesson in our Berkoff Greek piece. We'd already figured out the intros and the first repetitive words, and this was our setup. We skipped a little bit to a more in-depth conversation between the waitresses of more content to work on rather than the transition period that we'd already looked at. And so this was how we're going to lay it out. Obviously we will have a riser in place, and this is just what we had to hand, and the chair. This shows and represents the cafe and a seat at the cafe. It also shows how Peter playing Eddie is the main character, how it's all centralised about him, and these sort of side characters are still important, but it shows the contrast and the influence that they have on him. Obviously quite a lot of this bit is quite grotesque, and I'm going to go into more about that. And I'm going to go into more about how we looked at the physicalisation of this part. So Leah represents all of the physical aspects in this conversation that is quite rude and sexual, and I think that could be good. I think we need to work on more of what she's doing, but I think that some points of this are really good. So I'm going to start off by talking about how we're also intruding on his space. So the waitresses are having a conversation over Eddie, and I think that this makes it more abstract in the sense that we are physically over him, having this disgusting conversation, this repulsive conversation, and I think this works well in Berkoff style, obviously because he was more abstract and less naturalistic, so they're not just having a conversation by the side of him and he's reacting. Also with the idea of abstract and the physicalisation that Leah provides, it could become slightly detached, and so those are my initial views from looking over this video once or twice, so I'm going to talk through it as I play. So yeah.
Okay. So we can like redress.
So the initial okay is to finish the last sequence that we would have created, and into the more gruesome, grotesque sort of sexual nature. I think the way I said that could be improved because there could be more of a hint towards the sexual nature of it. I said it quite dramatically, sort of surprised, but I think I need to work a lot more on that, and I think when we learn the lines it'll become more clear, because at the moment I don't think it's as funny as it should be, and it should have more of a hint towards that. It's quite a funny and disgusting topic. I think Peter's facial expressions will also influence this, so showing his disgust and the fact that we're talking about this really close to him and we don't care could influence that too. But Peter will have time, obviously, to build up these facial expressions. Leah is obviously representing the cum at the back, so jumping out to show this. And I think that doesn't detract from the piece. I think it actually adds to the piece. I think it adds to the whole feeling of the words. But perhaps there could be a more reaction to Leah when she jumps up from Peter or Hannah as well. So as we continue.
Yeah, dirty bastard! It was thick and stringy to pages together.
So we need to figure out more about the accent, because I think the accent could add to the tone and the pace of the words as well, so the feelings behind the words make it more comical to the audience, because at the moment I think that there is this sort of uncomfortableness. I think they should be feeling uncomfortable, similar to Eddie, who they can relate to, but I think it should be funny as well. At this point, I think that Peter's reactions are showing disgust, but are too serious. So we need to figure out how we can make this more comical. I think that's the main part for this scene, for this little extract itself. And Leah's involvement as well. So sort of representing the mom. Peter's reaction was alright there. So all of these little gestures that I think we do, that we're building up our characters, are working well, and could add, again, if we go back to the beginning bit, could add to that, but the togetherness isn't so clear.
I was like that. I haven't sucked a juicy cock for ages. Have you? No, not really. Not if I've got a dick stick on one. What's the biggest trigger?
So the emphasis on this, I think we're going to work on this more, because we have the idea that Leah is punching through to become the penis. So, like, in that sense, it should be more defined movement, more staccato movement. I think that we should focus more on that, and don't forget that we learned in the first lesson, because it looks too wishy-washy. It doesn't look smooth enough and defined enough. and the movements that she gestures towards it, it's not as much emphasis on it. It's very much just the use of the movement is there, but it's not really used to its full potential, I don't think.
No!
That bit was alright. When she pulls it out further, I think it was good because it made it look a lot bigger and like obviously worked with what they were talking about. But I feel like there could be more physicalisation here, and there could be more reaction from Peter. And also I feel like Leah, it's hard to the audience not to focus on her because she is just being the object of the description of everything, the physical description of anything. So I think it could separate her too much from the rest of the piece going on. But yeah, that's it.